we want to try to optimize the architecture of a garment so that it is relatively easy to change without having to fundamentally change a production run or a production line. And so the core architecture of a blouse or a dress will remain the same, but the embellishments will change.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Super excited to be here with you all. It's great to be in Hamburg. My name is Peter Pernot-Day. I'm part of the strategy team at Shein, and I'm very excited to share something about the future of e-commerce retail. There's been a lot of talk at this conference and a lot of excitement about innovation, new business models, and I'm here to share one with you today. And that is how Shein is transforming the future of retail by innovating its supply chain, innovating its sources of materials, and connecting designers to customers in a new and very exciting way. But I think it's important that we start with what our vision is and what our values are. And so I have this slide up here. This is a quote from our founder, my boss, Skye Zhu. Skye's vision from the start has been to make the beauty of fashion accessible to everyone. And as he thought about that challenge when he founded the company in 2012, his idea was that it involved a revolution in supplier management. It involved a revolution in customer engagement, and it involved a rethinking of how e-commerce platforms reach their customers. All those things sound great. This is amazing. Yeah, let's have customer-centric processes. Let's have a very efficient supply chain. But what does that mean in practice? The Shein model is based on two fundamental technologies. The first is an engaging shopping experience through our mobile app, and the second is a digital merchant system, which we feel revolutionizes supplier management. What does our engaging audience technology do? We've all been to great retail stores. You walk in, you see a mannequin or a display, maybe a model or two, and you think, wow, I could look that good. I could wear that coat, or I could wear that blouse. Those pants would really go well with it. Maybe a pair of shoes. That's something, that engaging shopping experience that's been missing from e-commerce. It's in physical retail, they've had it forever. But how do you bring that to e-commerce? Our answer was in a recommender system. By creating an engaging shopping experience where customers could browse, they could see other looks, they could get suggestions on pieces of clothing or items or accessories that would complement how they wanted to express themselves, we could get our customers to engage with our storefronts in a more active and persistent way. That activity and persistence had two benefits. It improves the shopping experience first and foremost, but it also gives us a rich first-party data set about what types of clothes different types of people want to wear in different geographies. That information is something that we feed automatically into our second core technology, which is our digital merchant system. Instead of relying on complex supply chains that involve multiple contracts, multiple teams, multiple middlemen, we've created a merchant management system that digitally connects all of our suppliers, from our mills to those contract suppliers who do our cut, measure, and trim and produce the garments we make. This efficiency in bringing everything together mirrors the advantages of vertical integration, but does so digitally. And that digital efficiency is something that allows us to pass on significant savings to our customers. So we have these two systems that have really revolutionized how e-commerce works, both from a price perspective, also from a customer engagement perspective. It's really, really interesting. So how does this work in practice? So when we want to do an initial engagement with our customers, our designers will produce an initial run of garments that's usually about 100 copies of a SKU. So take my jacket, for example. One of our designers, let's say in our design center in Los Angeles, will design this garment, create a tech pack, upload it into our digital merchant system, and a merchant or a supplier who has the ability to make these garments will begin to produce it in an initial run of 100 copies. That will then be automatically loaded onto our web storefront, and we'll see, do customers resonate with this jacket? Do they want to buy it? Do they want more of it? Is it selling? Are they putting it in their cart? Are they sharing it with their friends on a social media platform?
And that engagement, that understanding of interest, that measurement of a demand signal is what allows our designers to see if they've got a hit. If there's something that people want to buy, they want to engage with it, customers like it, they want to wear it, our design team can then go back with that information directly to our suppliers and order a second copy. And these are these additional small runs. So instead of making 10,000 copies of a garment or 100,000 copies of a garment, we're making 300 copies. And we're testing repeatedly to see if there's sustained demand for that particular item. This small batch test and learn approach that our technologies enable not only facilitates a conversation between our customers and our designers, it also allows us to realize incredible efficiencies because it aligns supply and demand. What does this mean? It means that we have virtually no excess inventory waste. It means that we can produce garments at 20 to 40% cheaper than our competitors because of these efficiencies. It also means that our production model is less intense from a carbon perspective than more traditional models. What we've achieved, I think, achieves three key value points. The first is that it's profitable. We do not subsidize or artificially deflate the cost of our goods, and we have been profitable since 2015. We've realized that profitability through these efficiency models we've been discussing. The second is it's low waste. While traditional factories may produce thousands or tens of thousands of copies of a garment, and up to 40% of those, according to McKinsey, will ultimately go to waste, our model has waste levels around 1%. The final and most important aspect of this is that we have happy customers. We produce high quality, affordable, trendy clothing, and our data suggests that our customers reward us for that. The lifetime value, or LTV, of our customers is increasing over time because they get value for money, because we produce high quality clothing using this model. We're not really stopping there, though. We're taking our innovative thinking, our design-oriented processes, and our commitment to technology towards sustainability. One of the things that we've launched in the last several years is an Evolution by Design roadmap. And this reflects our values to protect the people, the planet, and the systems that support all of us. We realize that as a fashion brand, like all fashion brands, our company has an impact, and we're working to lessen those impacts through some of these processes. The most exciting of which is our work on next generation fabrics, either by rescuing dead stocks or by establishing our own standard for responsible materials, which includes garments made from at least 30% recycled or forest-safe viscose. Finally, just some quick notes about our business. I know that we are relatively new, but we are quite substantial. We have over 4,300 designers. We operate in well over 150 countries. We have operational presences in 19 countries, including here in Germany with an office in Berlin. And we have invested over $50 million in an extended producer responsibility fund, which is unique in the fashion industry because we acknowledge that our clothes do end up in landfills, and we've taken accountability and responsibility for remediating that through our extended producer responsibility fund. So I'll pause there. I know that Alexander probably has some questions for me, but just wanted to walk you through a little bit about Shein and share some of its value proposition with you. So with that.
Thank you. I have to admit we are very good prepared because we had the chance yesterday. Please no, you're like here the main person. You have to sit there. We had the chance yesterday to record a podcast for Kassenzone. It will be aired next week, so there's like a bit more time for analyzing the business. And one of the arguments you came up with about like the proof of the business model is that there's like so many happy customers, that there's profitability in the business model. You cannot afford to create like unhappy customers. You need like constant buying behavior from existing customers. Otherwise, the whole like business case is not working. And when I heard this argument, I said, yeah, it's true. That is something like other platforms, like Wish, for example, never really achieved. But it's very hard to get customer data. So I would like involve like the audience here. And please, can you hold your hand up? The audience here who had bought at least once at Shein. Can you just hold up your arm? Please keep it up.
Thank you.
Like, I cannot count it here, so it's not like official statistic. So, and the one of you, please keep up your arm. The ones of you that ordered at least at once at Shein, how many will order a second time at least? Please keep your arm up. So many arms went down, not all of them. That is usually like the judgment I'm getting. Yeah, that's like the quality cannot be good enough with that price. So people only order once. So how do you usually respond to this, let's say, criticism? Because like from an outside perspective with European like prices, we are usually seeing like a T-shirt 20 euros, 30 euros at a retailer, and only like 2 euros, 5 euros at Shein. Usually the expert come up with an explanation that cannot be true. It can't be sustainable. Quality must be so low, people only shop like one time. How do you answer that?
Well, first, to those of your customers that we lost, I hope we'll have an opportunity to earn your business back. I think that Shein's vision is to create high quality clothing that is both affordable and profitable for the business. I think we do that primarily through the advantageous use of these technologies that we were talking about, be it the supplier management system, which allows us to achieve the benefits of vertical integration without some of the downsides. And that benefit allows us to obtain very favorable pricing on material, but it also, because it wreaks so much efficiency from the process, allows us to reduce our per unit costs of goods sold significantly. Add on to that some other advantages about being e-commerce only and some efficiencies about being physically located, at least in part, in Guangzhou. I think all of those things add up to tremendous pricing advantages that we carry forward to our customers.
And the second biggest question is usually about like logistics setup. Then the common sense would tell you it cannot be possible to put those kind of items in an air freight kind of process and ship them to Europe. But then I've learned in the podcast and like with other experts talking about it that the way how you like aggregate logistics in China and just like ship it to Europe might save some costs in between because you don't need distribution centers and distribution logistics. But still, is it cheaper to ship directly factory or like Shein to customer instead of putting 10,000 T-shirt in a container and then distribute them like separately in the European Union or the USA? Can you enlighten us here a bit?
So our model is that we will work with contract manufacturers, we'll place orders, and those orders are then centralized into Shein-owned warehouses. So these are systems that we own, and their warehouse is that we take custody of these goods. We design them, we contract for their manufacturer, we aggregate them. And in that aggregation process, we can efficiently organize transshipment via air freight in a way that's relatively efficient. So we'll take all of the particular garments that are headed to a particular country, and we will arrange for air freight to transship those products. And these are typically clothing items, so it's relatively low weight. So that efficient sort of organization and aggregation of shipments allows us to do this in a way that's relatively profitable. And then we work with last mile delivery services in those countries to facilitate additional final mile returns and deliveries. We've also begun experimenting with localized distribution centers. So we have distribution centers in the United States, we have a distribution center in Wrocław, Poland, we have some in Canada, some in Brazil, and these allow us to reach customers in our core markets in a way that is much more efficient and more efficient from a cost perspective. So I think the combination of that sort of smart logistics, smart planning, tied to local distribution centers is something that allows us to keep prices low.
And then when you're reading articles about like new Chinese platform coming into Europe, then a year ago we also had the discussion here on stage about the logistics advantages from China. We put like the World Postal Contract in the middle, and then over the last 12 months we found out there is no special advantage in there. When I remember your chart with the operational system like for the manufacturers, maybe you can go back there. Can you please zoom in a little bit?
I think they turned it
They've
off.
deactivated the clicker.
They shut me off.
Can you please zoom in a bit? So how is it possible today for a factory to produce just like 100 pieces from a specific garment? Because my understanding of the fast fashion industry, which was 10 years ago innovated by Zara or Inditex, they needed thousands of pieces per garment to make this work. So is there like innovation in the machines around it? Is there like a process innovation around it? Because this seems to be one of the main tricks of the business model, that you can really produce efficiently in very small charges. So is there something which we've missed?
So I think it's a very important question, and I think the answer to it starts with the design process itself. So looking at our overall offerings, we want to try to optimize the architecture of a garment so that it is relatively easy to change without having to fundamentally change a production run or a production line. And so the core architecture of a blouse or a dress will remain the same, but the embellishments will change. And in that way, we're able to have factories that can produce in small batches over time. That said, it's taken us 10 years to build this production base and to identify those suppliers and engage them in contracts and digitize them in a way that they can do this. And what we've seen is that their ability to see exactly what's coming down the pipe and exactly what types of designs and interests, colors are resonating with customers, because they're connected directly to that via our digital merchant system, they're able to make bets on smaller production runs because they know more is coming. So instead of having to place an order, or excuse me, to only accept an order for 100,000 items, they can see that in total they will be able to make 100,000 items over that same time frame and do so profitably.
And the way how you order this, like 100 pieces orders or 100 pieces like production items, is it something the factories can do themselves? Do you offer kind of, okay, these are the trends, the 10 new trends today on a global scale? Blue trousers in Brazil with a new tight leg design might be a thing here. Dear factory, you can bet on this. Please put it on the platform. Or is it something where you're taking the risk on your balance sheet?
So we take the financial risk to a point on these designs. However, the way that it works is the merchant system has an automated bid-ask program. So if you're a merchant who can make pants, and you've made pants in the past, and you've passed our sustainability scores, our social responsibility audits, and you've agreed to sign up for the platform, then you can bid automatically on a particular job, and you'll be rewarded for it. One of the interesting aspects of this, though, is that if you have a higher social responsibility score, and we grade suppliers A through Z, if you have an A or a B, your bid will have more weight. And so we're helping to drive change in the way that these factories operate through this automated system where people are bidding for jobs that we're sending out.
Let's maybe stick with the customers here that like lowered their hand because they were not so happy with the first Shein order. And obviously, and this I think it's a statement which definitely is true. You are interested that these customers will come back in the future. So do you track then the return behavior of the customers, like per item? And if you see, there's from a specific factory, the blouses are not working, like 90% are returned, or the customers are churned then from this factory delivery, you put them out of the process, or your rating goes down? Is this how it works?
So in addition to social responsibility ratings, we also have performance ratings and quality ratings. So if a particular manufacturer has inordinate return levels, customer complaints, they can't pass our own quality inspections, which we do over 300,000 a year randomly across the supply chain, those particular contract manufacturers will potentially lose access to the platform, or they'll have to go through a remediation and demonstrate that they've improved their operations to meet our quality standards and expectations. But the idea is to try to work with suppliers over time. I call this the analog portion of our business, to make sure that that supply chain understands how to do large-scale, on-demand, ready-to-wear retail.
You said you have 3,000, 4,000 suppliers in China, if I wasn't wrong with the number?
We have 5,400 suppliers in China, Brazil, and Turkey. And the bulk of those are still in China, in Guangzhou,
And
in the Guangdong region.
there's a big hope in Europe that some of the factories might also change the way of how they supply merchandise to those platforms, like turn around the supply chain. So how many factories in the fashion industry are there actually in Europe available? So what's your best guess? Are we talking 50, 500, 2,000?
I think that the technologies and the know-how exist. I think the question is whether there is adequate capital to devote towards developing these factories. That capital deployment that we've invested in, and last year it was over $70 million in direct investment into our supply chain, is something that I think still remains to be seen. And are there better uses for that capital in Europe? But I do think that the talent and the capacity could be here. It's just a question of capital investment.
In last year, you started to acquire brands, real brands that have like really brand awareness and brand acknowledgement. With the system you've showed, it's like a perfect production system, and still we have to ask and figure out, so how is it possible to ship it that way into Europe? But what do you need brands for?
So one of the things that we are excited about for the future of the business is opening up our supply chain and offering it as a supply chain as a service. And in acquiring the intellectual property from designers, and we've done this most notably with Missguided in the United Kingdom, is we can take a library of designs and we can apply our best-in-class supply chain technologies to that design to try to produce clothing from that IP catalog. And we've seen great success with that model, both in our SheNX platform, which is an incubator for independent designers, along with the Missguided platform. And so we're excited to begin opening up our supply chain to brands that may want to move into e-commerce, that may want to establish a ready-to-wear capability, or that are new market entrants and want to share their designs with the world. And I think that's something that we're very excited about, is how to open up our flexible platform really to the world.
And then maybe last question from my side because time is running up if I'm reading the counter right here. Yeah. So I think you've been like now moved under the European market law because you're on a very big platform. So you're not reporting into Dublin anymore from this like regulatory perspective, but into Brussels. At least that's how I understand it. So how much of your time do you need to devote into this discussions like regulatory personnel and all the questions about how do you clear customs, tax transparency? Because in the last 12 months, this was kind of the main objectives in the public discussion, and I'm just wondering, so how much of your work is like go to markets, like finding partners and like being on stages versus like talking to regulators?
So I would say that our vision, which is what drives all of this, is that our customers should feel safe, secure, shopping with a responsible global company. And that's what Shein aspires to be. We are obviously, as a company of our scale and size and economic importance, subject to a wide variety of regulations in any number of countries that we do business in, including in the European Union. And our approach to this is to welcome it. We think that questions from government, questions from civil society, opportunities like this where we're faced with difficult questions, those are the types of things that make us a better business. And our customers ultimately benefit from that because it shows that we're responsible. You mentioned the designation as a very large online platform under the Digital Services Act. I think that's a great example. The Digital Services Act is an example of Europe leading on how customers can feel safe online, how they can feel confident that the brands they shop with are doing the right things with their data, with security, and with their supply chains. And so with that VLAP designation, I actually see it as a great business opportunity for us because it will allow us to share more about our values and our responsibility towards our customers.
Are you going to be back on OMR next year?
If I'm invited back, hopefully we'll have one more of you back as customers by then. So,
thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Big applause.